Hello, welcome. My name is Amanda Poss, and I'm the Gallery Director for Hillsborough Community College. It is with great excitement that Gallery221 at HCC presents a new multimedia installation by Yala Ford as part of our annual exhibition celebrating Black heritage. In the light of the ongoing COVID-19 health crisis and the uncertainty that permeated 2020, her installation Distance is a poignant reflection on the new lived experiences of time and space and underscores the integral nature of connectivity in an era of social distancing. The exhibition is on view at the Dale Mabry campus now through February 25th. You can view the exhibition by making an appointment on our website, hccfl.edu/gallery221, or by taking a look at the photo tour also accessible on our website for those of you who might prefer a remote option. I want to say a few quick notes about our Zoom meeting before we get started with tonight's event. As you may have noticed, we are recording this meeting in Zoom. Simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, also at Gallery221 HCC, if you want to be notified when this is available. For the best experience of our event, we recommend that you use the view icon on the top right and select speaker view. And for clarity, everyone except the speakers will be muted. However, we do welcome your participation just in the form of the chat section. This is where we'll look for your questions during a Q&A, which will occur at the end of our event. So just leave your questions in the chat at any time and we'll address them in the order in which they appear during the Q&A. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Amy Bousquet, Dean for Associate in Arts at the HCC Dale Mabry campus, for a few words of welcome. Amy, at this point, I'd like to invite you to turn on your video and unmute.
Thank you, Amanda. On behalf of our campus president, Dr. Alan Witt, and the entire administrative team, I would like to welcome everyone to tonight's reception. The other day, I was in the gallery and I had the opportunity to walk around and experience Yala Ford's incredible work. It was such a treat because I stood alone with the work and I was able to take it all in, and I walked around and looked at all of it in solitude. And it spoke to me, and it spoke to me about, yes, our distance and the fact that we are trying to keep a social distance from one another, but it also spoke to me about our deep connection that we have with others, with our surroundings, the universe. We are so honored to host this very timely and important exhibit, and I'm really looking forward to tonight's program. So with that, I turn it back over to you, Amanda. Welcome everyone once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Always a pleasure. A few words of thanks before I introduce our esteemed artist. A lot of people went into making this exhibition possible. We are deeply grateful for the support of the HCC Dale Mabry Campus Student Government Association, whose generous funding made it possible to bring Yala Ford's exhibition to HCC. I applaud the governing student body and student activities coordinators, Joseph DeDonato and Catherine Corman, for their support of cultural diversity and their continued recognition working with our students of art's value in relation to student success. Gallery221 at HCC has enjoyed also a longstanding relationship with the Tampa Bay Black Heritage Festival. The festival and the gallery hold in common a strong commitment to diversity and cultural awareness, and we especially thank William Sanders, Ruby Jackson, and Ursula Odom for their efforts in coordination between the festival and the college. Likewise, we're also partners with the HCC Dale Mabry Campus MLK Committee, and we're proud to work with them in celebrating cultural inclusion and equity. I want to express my thanks to the contributions of the HCC Gallery team, Emiliano Sedicasi and Michael Murphy, who are working behind the scenes tonight. They each deserve special recognition for their efforts in facilitating numerous aspects of the exhibition, from planning to installation. We are also fortunate to have the support of Amy Bousquet, who you heard from just a moment ago, our Dean for the Associate in Arts Programs, and also Dr. Alan Witt, the HCC Dale Mabry Campus President. I extend my sincere appreciation to all who worked and supported this exhibition, from the college to our surrounding community. And finally, my heartfelt gratitude goes to our artist, Yala Ford, for sharing so generously of her time and her talents with us. We're truly honored to host this important exhibition. As we get started, I just want to remind our audience once more that our session will end with some Q&A. So please, I highly encourage you to type your questions into the chat at any point during the event. And now a little bit about Yala Ford. Yala Ford received her MFA in Interdisciplinary Art from the Art Institute of Boston in 2012. She holds a JD from the University of Florida's Levin College of Law. Her work can be found in the permanent collections of Nike, the Boston College Library, and many others, as well as on the walls of buildings throughout the Tampa Bay area, including the Morean Arts Center, the James Weldon Johnson Public Library, and Al Lang Stadium. She has exhibited and collected with SPP, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations, the Jeff and Penny Vinnick family, the Tampa Museum of Fine Arts, Orlando Museum of Fine Art as a prize artist, Nike, Asia Contemporary, Venice Biennale Activation Projects, Ewing Gallery, Snap Orlando, and she has an upcoming exhibition with the Ringling Museum, among others. She's a very, very busy lady. Her community projects with installations on exterior walls throughout the Tampa Bay area include USF, Historic Manhattan Casino, Hyatt, Community Foundation, Ray Stadium, the Morean Arts Center, the James Weldon Johnson Public Library, and Rowdy's Al Lang Stadium, WADA, and many more nationally and internationally. And so with that, I invite Ya to, she's already ready, unmuted with her video on. I'd like to invite you to start talking a little bit more about your journey to art. What led you to becoming an artist?
So thank you so much. I want to start by thanking Gallery221 and Amanda. You are amazing. Thank you for trusting me to transform the environment where I had the ability to push the boundaries of innovation and creativity. What more could an artist want? Emiliano, Michael, and the rest of my team for helping me painting the floor from ceiling to floor, black on black. I was able to explore the power of space, finding and formulating new meaning to the word distance. I also would like to take the time to thank my collectors, my supporters, my Athena sisters, my family, my boys, inclusive of my partner, Victor IV, my son, excuse me, my sons, Victor V and Lexington, and it truly takes a village. Without you, there would be no me. You all inspire me daily. Your love is my hope. Your energy is my synergy. So how did I become an artist? What is my journey in art? My earliest memories seem to revolve around this idea of what it means to push the boundaries of time and redefining space and understanding that the exercise of creativity is simply to figure out ways to evolve past the expected outcomes to discover something that would appear to be different. And in so many ways, I think we're all sort of meandering through life's proverbial roller coaster along the journey whereby we both anticipate and have chance encounters that serve different portals. These are portals of expression for me that we're all trying to convey a feeling or a meaning or a purpose that aims to solve something that is needed. And I believe we're all looking for our meaning. And creativity, I believe, stirs in all of us. There's this urgent need to explain our reason, or perhaps to give us hope, celebration, or promise, or something that's measured in the future. This is, of course, largely expressing my creativity. However, I think for the most part of my journey, my art rests on my early imagination surrounding the use of my materials that I was given, such as paint, markers, chalk, crayons, and of course, the wonderful marks I used to make on my mother and father's walls. In my mind, I think I've always been creating a code of sort, a language that I was using to understand my path through life, collecting patterns or human codes that are ultimately telling a story of our space and our time. And through the language of lines and patterns, that breadth of difference and that powerful and beautiful output that has consideration, that's really observing our past, our present, and speaking truth to our future. I think I also tend to believe that the process of learning something is to obtain knowledge that is helpful to living and then exploring life while figuring out how we use what we've learned to be in service of others. Since my mom was a second grade public school teacher for 30 years, I had the largest canvas since I've been 10. And I had the most excited audience being teachers and children of our community. And my father, who is an engineer, rooted deep inside of me this idea of learning and exploration. That was something that was very encouraged. But I also remember, out of all of this exploration, there was also something very structured. Very early, I remember, while other children were spending Saturdays with days off, my dad took myself and my brother to serve the community, exposing underserved students to the importance of math, sciences, and continued education. At that time, I did not capture how important community was, but it was embedded in my soul. And the most important plan for me was how can I take this art as a platform to use this artistic capacity to address the world's most pressing problems, and use the canon of art to imagine the possibilities through a diverse medium and materials. Every step and every moment of my life has been a series of decisions that led me to this moment, living my truest purpose and sharing my most inner creations, thoughts, and passions with all of you.
What a fabulous way to bring us through your life's journey, truly. And you are very well known for your bold geometric patterns in your paintings that explore themes of transformation and transcendence. So tell us more about how you developed this specific visual vocabulary for your work and the thought process behind them.
So I think I view life as the sum total of all of our experiences. And so, as you know, I'm often thinking about how to best express this experience in the physical form to represent the layering of humanity within this universal language that I've coined. In many ways, I'm exploring the trajectory of a journey through these geometric paths, the meaning and the use of space and the metaphysics complexities therein. So the finished form, what you see is my interpretation of the use of how the blending of minerals and dyes become paint, and how the dynamics of pressure and heat and the environment then coupled with the space, excuse me, coupled with the space, then you are seeing how space and time can be altered, and how objects can then be viewed from a different perspective. In some ways, it's as curious as an explanation as to how human life experiences the phenomenon of water, or maybe the form of solid and liquid and gas. And so to imagine this idea that you can have a multidimensional experience with form or object that represents the creation of this universal language expressed through the caveat of art. I think developing the language in paintings is something of a collage within itself in the making. The experience of travel near or far spaces allowed me to engage diverse cultures and colors and energies, and to form in my mind a new mental canvas. And I think as you journey through spaces and as you journey through time, the process and of this information, and you take all this information and you try to bridge it into a more meaningful form. I think it's this idea of being mentally, physically, and emotionally, while spiritually in this space, that allows you to absorb both the wisdom and the story of what the space has to share. And of course, it can take on many meanings. But for me, it occurred while standing on the Great Wall of China, or in the Temple of Egypt, or the Colosseum in Rome, or the mountainous regions in Colombia, where you see the legacy of the Palenque people who fled to safety from the Spanish soldiers. But I will say that for me, it doesn't always require the verification of traveling to other spaces and to exploring that, to find those connections. I also find valuable resources just by focusing and absorbing the natural world around me in this very location. I think the same useful materials can be inspired or derived from well-traveled spaces to abandoned places. And I suppose, as controversial as it could be, you don't need a painted picture to get 1,000 words. You only need a few words to know what you've experienced.
You're already weaving us through philosophy and so many big things, and travel is transformational. This idea, I like you said so eloquently, spirituality in a space to absorb all of its wisdom. And that feels so pressing for me thinking about our next question, because your exhibition completely transforms our space. It's the first time, for instance, that the entire gallery has been painted Black. It creates this enveloping, meditative environment that can be profoundly psychological in impact. At least it is for me, and we've heard that from many of the viewers for the space. So why was it important for you to use this Black on Black color scheme? And what do you hope is conveyed to the viewer in this experience of the space?
So I think I'll start with a quote that comes to mind from John Hagee. We are indeed the light of the world, but only if our switch is turned on. For me, I think the challenge is to facilitate an installation that defies what's expected and to intercept vibrations from the universe in order to reveal a better awareness. And this awareness, I believe, builds our purpose and fulfills our destiny in humanity. And how do I open up a space or a portal where I can bring everyone to that motion, that moment, that notion that we can connect to a space? How can I connect you to a word? How can I use artistic capacity to evoke social agency? And how can art be powerful enough to change or evoke social change? These are the ideas that I'm pulling and tugging with and struggling with, and grappling and wrestling with. And often the idea of dramatically altering a current setting can be met with a sense of tension and unease. But Amanda, I'm delighted that you were willing to support an entire environmental transformation. And transforming the environment for me is something that was a quest in response to a number of questions. And if I could ask people their current circumstances, what does distance look like? I imagine previous to this year, the response would likely be equally bizarre as the question, right? But maybe we all had some time to contemplate the fragility of our existence, and therefore now we would think differently about the meaning or the value of this distance. So the challenge was to consider, how do I create this body of work in a way to capture the ideas behind distance without focusing solely on the idea of what keeps us from naturally assembling socially? Perhaps distance. Now, this is the place you are, but can never be, or a complex as the voided space between the celestial constellations. I've sort of embraced this in an unconscious way, and the meaning of Black. And I think when you dig into what Black is the absorption of all colors. And for me, it was balance. For me, it meant everything and nothing concurrently, while presenting a space of comfort, security, and finding that symbol, that light in a dark space. So if we consider distance as something more than your current state, we then are seeking to alter values and reassign new meanings.
You bring me perfectly to the next question, but I want to kind of come back to that notion you emphasize about fragility and balance, because I think that's so important as well. But the title of the exhibition, as you've been kind of discussing now, and artwork within the show, these each give viewers important points of departure for coming to a deeper understanding of the meanings behind the work that you included. So starting with the title of the exhibition, Distance, and there's that specific emphasis on the break between syllables, really emphasizes that concept of measurement, space between objects or bodies, but also the active sense of the word to distance oneself. So indicating something being remote or far away. And this takes on so many layered dimensions in an era of physical distancing. And as we sit here now, virtual engagement, right? Normally we would be doing this in the gallery. So why was it important for you to, kind of thematically nod to this idea of distance for the show by titling it that way?
So great question. So as you started to mention, so what is distance? Distance is this numerical measurement of how far objects are, points are from each other, right? When you think about the Latin breakdown of the word, you have dis, which is apart, and you have sto, which is I stand. Similar to my artwork, I tried to find the negative space of the word. I wanted to close that gap and find the we, and constantly bridging our spaces. I'm usually thinking about the metaphysics of space and time when we think about space and distance as a dimension and one in which you create the world in which we live. That is when you can start to redefine the world that you live in. Creating this kind of new map that gave some glimmer of solutions or new orientations of what is this new normal was really my focus. So I was considering, how can I shift the perspective from being so introspective to thinking about the common good and connecting us to the universal challenges, and then taking those challenges and channeling the difference through portals to create these different avenues that could connect human existence, perseverance, perseverance, and historical context. So I'm thinking, as an artist, you know, how does my work best relate to events that are occurring to us in the natural world around us? And I discovered in this pandemic that there was such a sense of urgency to modify that way. So we consider movement, interaction, and engagement in such a critical way. And unlike any other time, I sensed this conscious situational awareness whereby time and space and place and people are addressed in measurement. And I find that in many news and evolving ways, I was increasingly aware of the significance of how these numbers were playing a vital role in determining how we behaved as a species. I also wanted to consider the fact that for 12 months or for 3 quarters of the year, we became separated from perhaps the very things, the patterns, our ideas that we were performing previously. And so I validated this in my mind, that this distance was a key behavior that was redefining much of what I was doing for the greater portion of the year. And that's how I started to really make sense of it.
Such big picture ideas, and this idea of measurement and numbers. You reference 3 quarters of 2020 were taken up and kind of consumed by the pandemic. But your installation responds to both this vast timeless of the universe as well as the current moment, especially as you've been saying with respect to the pandemic. And so, for example, for our audience to orient themselves to the space, the 4 large paintings when you first enter in the gallery are each titled Space, and they progress with a sense of seriality. So Space Quarter 1, 2020, Space Quarter 2, 2020, Quarter 3, 2020, and then finally Quarter Indefinite 2021. This would seem at first glance contradictory, space and then these specific quarters, and yet that's part of the point, right? Hinting at the complex and complicated nature of our shared human experience. Can you expand on this some more?
Of course. So, yes, you got me. I think of this particular space as infinity, right? Why? Because it has no beginning and it has no end. Can this space encompass an emotion that evokes something? Can we connect with the universe and try to find a space that is greater than the one that we live in? Can we connect with the power of the vibrations of our ancestors and connect with different pathways? This installation involved engaging, meditating, processing, and reinterpreting our time and our space. Not a very far departure from my usual installations that journey through the metaphysics of space and time. However, instead of going through the space, I wanted to create a dimension within the space, a dimension, what distance would look like, pondering questions to reflect, creating a show that rethinks this moment. How do we unwind chaos? Chaos. How do we contain liberty? How do we establish stability? How do we chart new territory? I think throughout history, there's always moments of time that define who we are as a species. I'm also considering this idea of time and the universe in relationship to the current moment. If you recall, early in 2020, we started seeing an increasing negative trend. In a way, that was very real, very global, but localized and in your face. In that moment, I found myself calculating and measuring it differently in a way where I wanted to shift the dimension of time and beyond. I no longer wanted the defined meaning of time upon our calculations of seconds and minutes and hours and days and weeks and years or even decades. I wanted to project our past to our current situation, our current station, and maybe through a portal that would allow us to create distance from the pandemic, using time as opposed to distance for those both neighbor and stranger. I think it's important for us to meditate on questions so that we can answer them in our own personal reflections. What's this other dimension? Another time? What else could be at that time? Could we shift the meaning or the space? And so, as I was thinking about the events of 2020, I started to rethink the Roman reference of the number 20, which is Roman numeral double X. And so it was convenient that the X may be symbolic to some as a representation of being crossed out, X'd out, done, not there anymore. For example, something you'd want to remove from the sequence of time and existence. But I suppose to actually be able to do this would require a higher intoxication of power. Um, the paintings, therefore, seem to occupy this place in time referenced in a parallel to 2020 in terms of the year divided into quarters, which I've also was thinking of how 20 is also equally divided by 4. Yet we find the last quarter of 2020 did not find us in a state of resolution, but more so rotating in this sort of holding pattern of infinity that represented no beginning and no end. So each of these paintings are also calculated distance in the same way we're distanced from each other, with the caveat that those walls were there before the space was even a gallery. So then this begs the question, are these moments waiting for these spaces, or are the spaces waiting for these experiences, or are the spaces in fact an outcome of the moments combusted? I also think that distance lends to this conversation about measurement and normalization of calculating distance in social spaces. So each of the spaces is of equal size and distance apart. However, the geometric labyrinth speaks to this idea that each of us intersects as a shared human experience, and thus we should seek to explore how best we unify and process to the next chapter. Maybe I would like you to walk away from this installation with contemplation about our universe, maybe more deeply connected to our space. In considering materials, much of the paintings are components of dust, diamonds, and minerals. Everything we are and everything in the universe and on this earth originated from stardust, and it continually flows through us even today. It directly connects us to the universe, rebuilding our bodies over and over again and over our lifetimes. So most of the material that we're made of comes out of dying stars, or stars that died in explosions, and those stellar explosions continue. We have stuff in us as old as the universe, and then some stuff that landed here maybe only 100 years ago, and all of that mixes in our bodies. This interpretation of our existence makes us realize how important and connected we are, moment by moment. How can you be your brightest? How do you brighten your moment? And what can you do to change your environment or situation with love and light?
I think what you're saying is so necessary, especially that last part about asking us what can we do to change our situation with love and light. I mean, and wonderfully uplifting as well to consider that we are stardust made of the essential materials of the universe. And I think people in the chat are really responding to this as well. Robert Harvey says this is touching and groundbreaking. Kadia Thiero, love the connection to the universe and vibrations. And so you've been talking about, the resonance and the vibration of the space, but I also want to nod to the fact that you've done a lot of work in the public environment, out of doors, and you were talking about the importance of social spaces. So many people, I imagine, in our audience too, have experienced your work through the public projects you've completed through the years. Can you talk a little bit about your murals and things like that, and how that relates to your overall body of work? So, for example, is there any distinction in your mind between a mural versus a painting in the gallery?
Sure. So thank you, everyone. I really am humbled by your comments and inspired always. So I want to start by saying that. Um, seemingly I dream a lot. And so I do more painting when I'm not painting, almost in an unconscious space. So in the distinction of painting in the gallery, I generally like to pursue site specific paintings that require a certain person to person experience that's defined by that space. So with murals, they're really a part of the story of the ecosystem that is always evolving and transforming in new and interesting ways. And in many instances, I've discovered the murals serve as gateways to explore so many important issues and how the story is conveyed beyond the local boundaries. I think over the last decade, I've tried to really use these murals to highlight how they amazingly bring people together and who have different abilities. You have people from all circumstances of life. You have people with different abilities, backgrounds, stories, demonstrating how art can serve as a bridge, a builder of cultural hybridity and discourse and community exchange and interconnectivity. As a result, the visibility and many of the murals has increasingly spurred a dynamic range of communal sentiments aimed to revolutionize the social, cultural, and historic context of our human journey. So I think the murals are a constant reminder of our relationship to the world. Some of them, for example, touch various topics of heightened communal importance, anything from trauma, brain surgery, to cancer, to muralopia, which was children's literacy to the James Weldon Johnson to quantum inhabited space mural, which was created as an installation um, to save a local museum from closure, and a mural installed an 85-foot tunnel that involves storytelling as a way to memorialize stories of trials and triumphs, the Florida Holocaust Museum, a reminder of the importance of a story and retelling a story so that we never ever do it again. My most recent mural, woven, bridging with my Smith and Associates family, with 100 children on the south side of St. Petersburg, and so many more. So I think it's important for me to ensure the work maintains a strong and meaningful purpose, and that it's layered with difficult issues surrounding social, political, and environmental narratives. Other larger projects, I recently completed a 3-year mural and sculpture project with renowned architect David Adjaye as a $277 million response to rebuild and establish the post-Hurricane Sandy power infrastructure in New Jersey. And I designed a large piece that was the facade to to protect the facade of the power switching station. The mural was converted into a sculpture, and in order to honor the tradition of the host community's historic preservation goals, I designed a piece that outlined the shape of the corresponding neighborhood. And just to name another, one of my favorites is at USF, the one mural and entire building we wrapped with a line of unity. And this concept was to encase the exterior of a mid-century building landmarked across from the Dali Museum and the airport. The design involved wrapping the entire surface with 14 layers of metallic gold and then contrasting it with a green interconnected lines, and focused on representing the connectivity between student life and surrounding the downtown ecosystem. And why that one is actually one of my favorites is because it's become a hub for the student assembly. And it also secures much attention to the university's presence downtown and the significant services provided by the building's occupants, which happen to be the Army's ROTC program and the Family Studies Center, which are so important to our community.
Again, there's a lot of outpouring of love and support for your work as you've been talking, especially about your public projects. And you mentioned students there at the end. So I want to kind of give a shout out for our students as we are, housed within a college. So what advice would you give to our emerging or aspiring artists watching this event tonight?
I think I love Maya Angelou quote that states, "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." I think that we should trust our own voice. I think that we should develop the best of who we are with the tools that we are given. I think appreciating everything, using each moment to learn, and after you're done learning, then teach. I think valuing your community as they'll give you the strength that you need. I think forgiving yourself as these steps make you who you are, and loving yourself because you're filled with greatness, and we're all so excited to see it. Overall, I think art has the power to transform and move, and finding your inner passion and taking it and changing our world. All of us have the capability of doing it one moment at a time, one decision at a time. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I hope our students are listening, right? That you have the power to do that just one step at a time. I've got one more question for y'all, but I want to remind everyone that this is the moment for you to put your questions into the chat, and then I will relay those questions to y'all. So while we're waiting for that, will you give us a sneak preview about what's next for you? So any exciting projects or exhibitions planned for the future?
Sure. So, outside of the NFL hiring me to create all the NFL team owners' artwork, um,
Oh, that little thing.
wrapping an entire history museum with artwork, signifying transport, and we're busy doing public artwork all over the country. We also have, as you mentioned, an exhibition coming up with Ringling. I was recently selected to do some really important work that I'll talk about with the 12 courageous African American police officers. I was recently selected to do this memorial, and it's going to be a heroic sculpture that includes the Badge of Justice artwork. And I'm really proud of this work as it's going to be composed of a geometric shield signifying the nexus of 12 officers and their path to justice and the obstacles they encountered and their triumph and equality. And I think it's the ultimate task to find the balance of power and justice. And I'm proud to continue this project, and I can't wait to present that to everyone.
Thanks. I'm going to read a couple quick comments before we get to the questions. Lorna Taylor says, love how your work evokes connectivity. Gwendolyn, wow, black is the absorption of all colors, beautiful murals. Cindy, her words are poetically eloquent as her art. What a journey. Carol Mickett, great conversation. Thank you. And Marlene Spalton says, we're so honored to live with Ya's work in our new office in St. Pete. We love being in that space with her incredible talent. Which then brings me to the first question, kind of a query from Aaron Hughes, curious about how the project with Ajay's group went.
It went wonderful. It's been installed, it's being enjoyed. Um, we have another project coming up with him. That's an amazing project that we got to affect the community. What I loved the most about that project is that we got to work intimately with the Newark community, with expectations of what they wanted. We did not just put anything up there. We got it approved by the community, and it was a brilliant project to work through and to be a part of. And I was one of many artists that were a part of it. And one of my dear friends, Danny Simmons, is who brought me into the project, and he's an artist as well. And I think the time that it took to execute that project, that at the other side of that project, I think seeing it in fruition and getting the notes that we get about the end result has been nothing short of amazing.
Thank you. The next question comes from Susan Antoinette. Can you share the stories behind the Warehouse Arts District Association campus mural you did with children and the Manhattan casino murals? She says, I love them, see them regularly, and would love to know more.
Oh, wonderful. So both of them really were off of the pretext of the Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, and Woven, and this idea that you have two murals that are right across from each other that can interact with each other. So the idea of gravity happening in between these two spaces when you walk between them and you becoming a part of that vibration and that rhythm and connecting with the power of art is really what the focus was. I worked with Smith and Associates, who sponsored, along with Jennifer Lovelady's family, and we were able to come up with something truly magnificent. We brought over 100 kids from the South Side who actually built the waves. So if you look at the piece, it's actually a wave all the way up to the sunrise. And that's the one thing that was within our gaze over this shutdown. We were able to control that we could see the sunrise and the sunset. And that piece still is a warm moment to my heart because every time I pass it, I can feel the children put their hands on that wall and you can still feel the remains that they left there. So thank you for that question. That was a really important project. And I'm delighted that we could layer not just art, not just paint, but also community. And the support that we get from each other then uplifts everyone. And then we get to see how, as a community, we grow and how we share and how we inspire and how we love. And I think at the end of the day, that space, when you stand in between it, there's a lot of things that have happened, that have grown, that have, but what remains is that art, which really makes me happy.
We have a related question about children from Jennifer Ring. She wants to know how you foster creativity in your children. Are your adorable children, who, yes, they are, I can confirm, are they allowed to draw on the walls at home?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the thing that I do is I bought them a board. My boys tend to be, you would obviously think that by looking at my children that they would be artists, but actually one of them tend to be more of an engineer and the other one tends to be more of a doctor. So they don't have much interest in drawing and painting. They have more interest in building and resolving puzzles, which I try to foster creativity within them, but I think they look at art as more of work. So they help me whenever they can, but they see it and they're around it and they embody it. So I think it's a part of who they are, or at least I hope it is, and that it gives them something powerful to take into their lives. And I think that that's something that I think we can share with anyone who is exploring the passion of art. That you don't really, I think it's not just about painting where you find the passion of art, but it's about finding your passion and executing it. And I think I'm looking at their talents and trying to figure out how we can creatively formulate this into two young men that can be amazing contributors to humanity.
I have no doubt that that will be the case. Our next question comes from Robert Harvey. It says, you are such a staple in your community and you serve as a mentor to so many. Who are some artists or people that have served as mentors to you, if any?
Ooh, that's my favorite question yet. So my all-time favorite is my mentor, Mark Bradford, of course. And then I think really, if you look back at the color field artists from the 40s and 50s, I connect with Mark Rothko and Alitsky and Helen Frankenthaler and their stain dyeing and their lines, and Alma Thomas, of course. And it helps me, they helped me to develop this, this sense and this understanding of the power of abstraction and this distinct and individualistic style that you find with these geometric patterns. And I'm constantly inspired and engaged by these pieces. And I think that all of us should spend time with our heroes. And I think Mark Bradford is, I think, my favorite out of all that I mentioned. However, it's not who he is, but what he did to me. And I think it was in London where I visit his piece at Tate, and I literally cried because that's the impact that art could have. So you read about this, you study about it, and then you have that impact, and then you want to recreate it so that someone else can feel those emotions that you're trying to contrive.
Speaking about being inspired and impacts, Tanya Langford asks, what would be your dream project to work on?
You know, every single day I get to wake up and create artwork and understand the purpose and destiny is providing for my two children that will then be able to then create a better existence in humanity. I think I'm living my dream. The moment that I get to share my artwork with you at this second, I'm living my dream, my passion. Um, I live in that moment and relish in this second. Um, Whatever comes, I'm going to enjoy at that moment. But presently, I am lucky to say that I'm blessed to be able to share my gifts and my talents and humbly love my space that I'm in.
Couple quick comments from Marianne Ferrick. I am appreciative for you giving a new vision for distance during these times. Kristen Shepard, I love how you bring everyone into your orbit through your work, especially engaging kids in our community. And then that brings me to my next question from Honor Rogers. In creating these amazing works and exploring these tremendous topics, what has been your greatest inspiration and your greatest epiphany?
Oh, that's a good one. I think my greatest creation was my boys. And I think my greatest epiphany is love is what we need. When you start with love and you end with love, I think we have a better humanity.
I think we can feel that in your work too, absolutely. The next question is from Carlos Gomez. It says, excellent chat, yeah. What role do you feel the role of the artist is or should be in society?
I think the role of of an artist, that's a great question. I think the role of an artist is inspiration. I think that we are there to inspire and create work that helps you to think of innovation and hope and to connect and bridge. I think that solving problems, figuring out spaces where we can create silos and spaces where you can help someone get to the other side of their problems. I think that's our journey as an artist.
Another couple comments. Everyone's again responding really positively. I'm just giving a couple snapshots. Carrie gets performing mother is its own art form. Stacy states, yeah, thank you for spreading your light. You are just wonderful. And then Angie Ramirez wants you to know she's wearing a jersey created for her by you. She's a professional athlete, and she just wanted you to know that she is watching.
Oh, thank you.
Um, and then Cindy, amen to beginning and ending with love. And I think that's a lovely place also to end here, unless there's any other questions. This has just been really, really special. Yeah, I want to remind everyone to come and make an appointment to see Ya's show. Really, the best way, I think, me personally, to view this is, sitting quietly by yourself, meditating in that space, letting all of these messages that Ya has created kind of slowly seep in and get under your skin and into your heart. Just a couple quick announcements before I let you guys go as our reception draws to a close. And you can book an appointment up through February 25th to see Ya's exhibition. But it's also the date of our next virtual reception from 6 to 7 on Zoom in conversation with artist Ry McCullough. His show, Themes for the American Kestrel, is currently on view in Gallery 114 at the Ybor City campus. So I hope that we see many of you again for our next event. So with that, our reception officially comes to a close. We'll replay a slideshow of Ya's installation in Gallery 221. Ya, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your thoughts with us. As you can tell from the outpouring in the chat section, I think you touched a lot of people here tonight.
Amanda, thank you so much for the opportunity. As you know, art is a powerful tool that you let us evoke social change, and you let artists enlighten, educate, and affect the change around the world. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we're going to replay that slideshow, but take care and be well.
Yeah. Andy don't play. I was on the ball. That's my guy up there.
You did?